If you've been in a breakup or you're going through a divorce where you're trying to pick up the pieces, it can wipe you out. But be willing to not sit in the suck. You have to change your current environment and invite good stress. So, how can we invite more good stress? Well, we have to be able to suck at something new. The key is you want to build confidence again. And how do we build confidence? We can actually say yes to being a beginner again. Sign up for a challenge. Those strenuous activities are also great. It can look like triathlons. It can look like completely coming out of your shell. When you are at a very low point, you need that win for you. Putting yourself out there to suck at something new so you can shift the needle just a little bit, shifting and changing your neural network. You're also shifting that past story that maybe you had fears about swimming or traveling alone because you were totally living this conventional life. These are all amazing ways to quantum leap your healing, getting you out of doing the same things that you've been doing. To create a completely new trajectory, you have to sometimes do the things you've never done before because you are completely creating a brand new vision for yourself. Hey loves, do me a quick favor and hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are tuning into this. It helps grow the show more than you know. Thank you so much again and enjoy. Today, I'm talking about something that many of you always ask. And this is about how did you get through your divorce? How did you get through breakup? Have you always had the most amazing relationship? And the truth is, no. The truth is, I was so far from it. If you've been watching me for a while, or if you've been following me for a while, or maybe some of you have just kind of stumbled across this video, today I'm talking about 5 tools that were game changers for me. Or honestly, if I didn't have these, I don't know where I would be today. They were game changers for me during the darkest days of my breakup, my darkest days of my divorce. So if you are one that's going through a breakup, if you are maybe in the crossroads or the intersection of a relationship and you're kind of like, I'm so unsure, or you are getting this hit that I don't know. I don't know if it's the right thing. I don't know if it's right for me. This episode is for you. And first, before I dive in, I always start by reading one of my affirmation cards. This is my That Suck Now What conversation affirmation cards. You can get it at thatsucknowwhat.com. Oof. Okay. So this one, I embrace change even when it's difficult. I trust all is perfect in this moment. I invite it all in. So, just recently, I celebrated, I think I've been celebrating all summer, but I just celebrated 7 years married to my incredible co founder, co pilot, co partner, co father, co parent in my life. And that is Ajit Nawalka. And we have been so blessed to have created a family in 7 years. We have lived around the world in about 33 cities. We've been to at least 11 countries and counting together. And we have had our ups and downs, our trials, our tribulations, our deepest, darkest moments, moments where we thought we would not make it. And now on the other side of that, and even just reflecting how this relationship has been different and how it's prepared me for even to have these conversations, these brave conversations in relationship. And I've also shared some of the episodes that we've done. We have a whole series of love and relationships, which I will link in the show notes as well, a full playlist if you're curious about that. And if you're curious about our love story, our little, just our deepening of our friendship turned relationship and the life we've been able to build, I will link that in the show notes. But there was a time where it was completely far from it, completely far from it. And I know that these tools that I'm going to share is going to literally shift the way you begin to heal And let's just say maybe you are having trouble in finding a partner. Maybe you are wanting love in your life, or you're curious about finding a partner and you're like, I don't know, there's no one there for me, or I'm not sure if love is for me. Or maybe you just keep getting triggered, or you keep attracting the same kind of person. And maybe you're like feeling hopeless, or is that person ever going to come? Is my human ever going to come? And I first want to say yes, but that person is you. That person is to really relish and adore and love everything that is you right now, currently. There was a very, 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 very long period of time where I was waiting for my Prince Charming to show up at the door to save me. And I attracted that in the most profound ways, in very toxic relationships. I think I watched one too many Cinderella or Little Mermaid stories growing up. And sorry, Snow White, I should say Snow White stories growing up, where you just wanted that Prince Charming. Shout out to, the millennials, older millennials who watched all of that growing up, thinking Prince Charming and Cinderella, you're going to get saved. The truth is you're not. And even if you are a guy watching this, you cannot fill that void and that gap. It's got to come from you first. Okay. So be able to date yourself, be able to, and this is coming from somebody who prides themselves on humans, other humans, and constantly being with other humans. I love that. Community has been a really big part of my life, and I will get to that in a second. However, coming from a immigrant family where we really pride ourselves on this collective group think and this collective way of living, and sometimes it can be enmeshment and things like that, and you want to make sure that you are also finding the love in yourself instead of making your needs last, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to do this for this person, or I'm going to do this for another person, or I'm going to go and do this for my family. What can you pour into you? Because no one is going to be waiting to do that for you. There's not going to be anybody that you will meet in your life that's going to literally put their needs before your own. And we can argue so much about this until you have to claim and see the worth within yourself. And once you see the worth within yourself, that you are extraordinary, you are capable of loving you, you are not going to need anyone to come and save you, because you have put in that love for yourself. And from that place of wholeness, from that place of, all right, my own cup is filled because I can fill my cup without needing, and the needy energy, then we leak out with other people, or then we start attracting people who are needy and want our energy and are maybe energy suckers in many ways. And then you repeat the same process, because then you have a break in that relationship and then the cycle goes on. So, to break this cycle, to break these patterns, to have a breakup with the former version of yourself, to step into that whole version, that complete version, that version of you that's like, okay, yeah, it'd be great to have a partner, or it'd be great. We have to first clear out the gunk, clear out. And if you're going through a breakup right now, we have to grieve. We have to allow ourselves the opportunity to grieve. I've talked about this in many other episodes about grief, about letting go, about making peace with our past, about being able to forgive yourself. And oftentimes that is a solo journey. Oftentimes you do collapse. You do want to just acquiesce and go inward, and you don't want to let anyone in. This is where I disagree, because this is where my invitation for you would be to get support. Get support. Get a talk therapist, get an energy worker, get a body worker, work with professional people, get a coach, do a program, There's only so many self-help books that you can read. I devoured all of them during my day, and I would read, I would watch YouTube videos, I would have something playing on my Audible, literally on either on repeat, and I would do these self exercises. I mean, I was committed to get out of that cycle of toxicity. And also, I knew that I needed to have support. And so I enlisted from relationship coaches to talk therapists to healers to different shamans to retreats to breath work. I mean, get the help of a community. It's always better when you are also you're doing the work solo. And yes, those self-help books are great, but when you are in community doing this work. In what I mean by community, yes, you can go to a retreat where there's 10 people, great, or you can actually enlist the help of others who have more experience in this area. Maybe it's a group coaching format. Maybe it's something that teaches you about speed dating or self love or allowing yourself to have a VIP day with somebody that you admire in a coaching container, in a coaching format. These are all amazing ways to quantum leap your healing, to quantum leap getting you out of doing the same things that you've been doing. And if you know to create a completely new trajectory, you have to sometimes do the things you've never done before. And what you don't know, you don't know because you are completely creating a brand new vision for yourself. So if you don't know, you might want to enlist people that actually know. And yes, there's so much that you can learn from being online and maybe listening to podcasts or YouTube like mine, but also get the support that you need. Get the support that you need. And with that, I also want to so that's the first thing is don't do it alone. Community is everything. Get that support. But the second, number two, you want to be able to there's a concept that I call that sucked now what in my book, your how to build your audacious resilience, okay, your bounce factor. I talk about this a lot in my book, That Sucked Now What. It is a 5-time award-winning book, and you've been hearing me talk about it. But the first thing in your foundation of yourself, in your foundation of creating that next iteration of you, you have to change your current environment. You have to see what wasn't working for me in the past. Why was I attracting these kinds of people? And for me, in my darkest days, not only did I have to change my environment, I had to change my friend group. My friend group was also toxic. During that low part of my life, I was pretty much living at the clubs. I mean, that was my solace. I didn't know any better. I was trying to search, I was trying to find, and so I set on a mission. I literally started to try to find new communities. And it started out with one of my church groups, one of my temple groups, one of my retreat groups. And then I got into triathlons. And then I got into 100-mile bike rides. And then I got into improv. And then I got into tennis and so on and so forth. And I've always been active. And so I felt for a period of time, I needed to sign up for challenges. So I did sprint triathlons. I did half century bike rides, which were 50-mile bike rides and then 100-mile bike rides. This was when I was living in Chicago. And honestly, the physical fitness and the physical endurance of what those sports needed, because I was training sometimes 2 to 3 hours a day. And sans kiddos, I mean, you have a lot of time. I was swimming in Lake Michigan. And I mean, I would swim probably a mile a day in the summer, and then I would bike ride in the mornings for an hour. I mean, I was set. This was prime. Even though I was definitely healing, even though I was definitely having my emo days and I would be crying in my parking lot before I would see patients. This was when I was a dentist. I was actively not only shifting and changing my physique, but I was also saying yes to hard things. I was also saying yes to trying to find different and new community. Because when we find different and new community, like-minded people doing the exact same things, then it became a personal growth. Personal growth communities was my biggest thing. And then because I wanted to create community, I started to create my own women's groups. I started to create my own book club groups that led to bigger and bigger things that I couldn't even host 100 women in my living room. And so we have to invite the sense of good stress that I talk about in my book. It's part 2 of my book, How to Build Your Bounce Factor, because we need to build our confidence again. And if you've been in a breakup or a relationship where it eats you alive, or you're going through a divorce where you're trying to pick up the pieces, it's hard, it's painful, it can take you out, it can wipe you out. That's why that number 1, don't do it alone. Community is important. That is huge. But number 2, be willing to not sit in the suck. Be willing to not sit in the suck. You have to change your current environment and invite good stress. Well, wait, Neeta, you're telling me to avoid stress by going and talking to a therapist or seeking people, but then you're also saying invite good stress. What I'm saying is sign up for a challenge. Those strenuous activities are also great. Okay, fine. So you can't climb a mountain. Maybe you can start a 5K or a 10K or a yoga teacher training or maybe an astrology immersion to really learn about your chart. I have more info on that as well. But the key is you want to build confidence again. And how do we build confidence? Well, while we're focusing on something new, we can actually say yes to being a beginner again. Number 3. So, how can we invite more good stress? Well, we have to be able to suck at something new. So, and I'm not saying, sign up for, well, actually, I am saying this. I signed up for a triathlon and I was not the best swimmer. I could only swim half of a lap and I would just be so out of breath. My technique was so poor. It was awful. And so what I did was I'm like, all right, I signed up for this thing. I'm not going to back out. I hired a coach and they were like, all right, we're going to get in the pool for 30 minutes. And this was at like, I don't know, 6 a.m. It was like super early. I'm like, oh, who wants to get up this early? But I wasn't going to do it without a coach. And lo and behold, this was like an Olympic training gym. The pool was freezing cold. I mean, I remember I would take hot showers just to warm my body up, which is even worse because you're not supposed to take hot showers when you're jumping in a cold pool because you feel even much colder. Oh, it was the thing I dreaded the most. And then you jumped in that pool. It was like an ice bath. It was so cold. And then you're doing these drills and you're about to pass out. But afterwards, is it the best feeling? It was the best feeling. And I remember when I finished my first triathlon, I was like, I didn't care about the rest. I didn't care about the biking. I didn't care about the running. But the swimming, the fact that I could swim in Lake Michigan with other big athletes toppling all over me, just swimming on top of me, that you have to catch your breath because you don't want to, God forbid, you swallow that Lake Michigan water. And it was a race. They were racing. For me, it was, I need to build confidence that I could actually do this thing for myself. And when you are at a very low point, you need that win for you. So, however you can create those mini wins for you, it can look like triathlons. It can look like doing improv. It can look like completely coming out of your shell. It can look like texting a new friend that you haven't seen or maybe you met once. Putting yourself out there to suck at something new so you can build and shift the needle just a little bit, maybe that 2%. So you're slowly, incrementally also shifting and changing your neural network. You're also shifting that past story that maybe you had a belief or maybe you had fears about swimming or traveling alone or doing things that you never thought you would do because you were totally living this conventional life. Which brings me to number 4. Number 4, increasing your emotional capacity to feel, the juiciness of the feelings, to be able to fully express, to fully be able to cry, to fully be able to cuss and not give a flying F of who is watching, talking, judging you. And it felt so good for me where I would preface this all the time when I started to publicly speak or do public speaking. First, it was for my nonprofit, Independent Awakening, and I was championing, young girls in building their confidence, and it became a movement across several different sororities and college campuses. And I would also speak to high school students. And the idea that, oh my gosh, can I actually throw an F bomb? Is it okay to throw an F bomb? Oh my gosh, I need to be professional here. And the amount of permission, I don't know if, well, my corporate talks, they still don't want me to curse. There's some that are okay. But the ladies in college, the college campuses, they're like, yes, yes, please do. Please give our women permission to actually be who they are authentically 100%, because we've been suppressed by the patriarchy. We've been suppressed for thousands of years that we have to act a certain way and be prim and proper and do a certain way to be accepted, to be lauded, to be considered X, Y, and Z. And who gives a flying F if you are not completely, wholly accepted in who you are? Which also means you're also giving others permission to also be unapologetic. And when I let that guard down, when I was able to freely speak my truth and open up my throat chakra that was lodged, that was I had so much I had so many issues in my 20s. I had to get my tonsils out. I was constantly having sore throats. I had a lot of dental work done in my mouth, especially in my late 20s, around the time of my breakup and divorce. And all energetically, it's all connected. It was all in my throat chakra, right here. Freedom of expression, right here. I needed to suppress. I needed to be the good girl. I needed to be that perfect daughter. I needed to be the one that everybody looks up to. And so if you are hearing this or watching this and you're like, oof, are you giving yourself capacity to feel? Well, what does that mean, Neeta? I'm saying to rage it out, to throw a bunch of pillows and fully scream. I have a whole playlist on how to allow your emotional capacity to feel. I will link that also in the show notes if you're watching this on YouTube. And you can also pick up my book, That Suck Now What. It has several different modalities of allowing yourself to fully self-express, to fully allow yourself to not only speak your truth, but actually have language and dialogue for saying, I need help. I am not okay. I am definitely far from perfect, but I'm okay with that. I embrace all of me and all of my quirks. To be able to say, I feel ashamed. I feel guilty. I feel jealous. I feel envy. I feel frustrated. I feel hopeless. And to allow yourself to have it expand, not only in your chest, in your belly, throughout your body. And when you are allowing yourself to actually speak it out loud, speak it to truth, guess what? You've relieved the pressure valve. You've removed the lid on that pressure cooker to let the air out. And guess what? Hey, it's not so bad. The world's not going to end because you've spoken your truth. In fact, people are way more appreciative. The ladies at the college campuses, the coaches that have brought me to their university has said, yes, preach, preach, because they want all of you. They want your unapologetic, your baddie self, because we don't get enough of that. And it's high time to let people know that we are human. We can break, we can fall, we can shatter into a million pieces. We can do all of that. And guess what? We can rise again. So that was number 4, increase your emotional capacity to feel. Number 5, this is a big one and this never ends, because in the end of my book, That's Like Now What, I talk about a checklist to thrive. How do you thrive after a breakup? And some of you are like, I'm barely even walking. I'm barely even getting out of bed. I'm barely even. Or maybe you're like me, you already found the next person to date. You didn't give yourself time. You're like, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. Guess what? That will pile up. Eventually, you will have to feel. Eventually, you will have to allow yourself to break. Sometimes breaking is not the worst thing in the world. The only way out sometimes is just through the mud, through the darkness, through the ickiness. There may be moments, and there were nights, there were weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks where I would just allow myself to fall on the floor of my bedroom and I would just cry. I would just fully allow myself to grieve all of the losses, grieve all of the expectations, all of the dreams that I had with that person. And maybe even grieving some of the relationships that I didn't grieve before that. Or maybe the patterns that I was trying to find that Prince Charming, which, doesn't exist because you've got to find that worth in you first. And then maybe you allow that person to come into your life. And we have so many of these expectations that are subconscious in our minds. But in order to write your new story, or in order to rewrite that story, or in order to call in what that new chapter is going to be, we have to, number 5, actively work to clear our old triggers, our belief systems, our patterns. This is huge. This is huge. Because if we are not seeing the patterns that, okay, how did I attract this person? Oh my gosh, and I attracted this other person with that same personality. And I'm attracted to this kind of person. If you were attracted to the bad boy on the motorcycle that you couldn't date while you were in high school, so now you're dating them as a young adult, or vice versa, and you think, oh, there's so much chemistry, so much sexual chemistry. I hate to break it to you. What do you not see in yourself that you see in that bad boy on a motorcycle? What do you not see or accept in yourself that you can't be that way? Or maybe accept that part of you that wants to be a rebel, that wants to be loud, that wants to be obnoxious, rambunctious. Give it to yourself. Get that black spandex. Dress yourself up. Adorn yourself. We have to actively work to clear old triggers. This also means work on the negative charges you have with the past breakups, with the past relationships. Work to forgive. Ooh, forgiveness is a huge piece of this. And fine, maybe you're grappling through some of the worst things that caused a relationship breakup, divorce. But maybe the biggest thing that you have to do is work on forgiving yourself. Because now, who are you as you enter this next iteration, the next level in your game of life? What is that next level going to require from you? And who do you need to be in order to rise into that? That is huge. That does not come with constant or continuous intention. Continuous intention to maybe say, put your hand over your heart, but say, thank you so much for the amazing gifts that I learned from this past relationship. Even if it's so hard for you to say, maybe write it in a journal, articulate it out. Thank you so much for the gifts that I learned. What did I learn? I learned X, Y, and Z. I learned how to love myself. I learned how to claim my desires for myself without feeling guilty, shameful, or bad. That I am 100% walking into my new identity with X, whatever that is for you. And I want to hear it. I want you to just share it in the comments. If you're watching this on, or if you're listening to this on Spotify or on YouTube, I want you to put it in the comments. How is this helping you process the next version of you that you are becoming? And who do you need to be? Who do you need to be? Because I know just from watching this or rewatching this or listening to this or sharing this with somebody else, I know you are unlocking more and more of new neural pathways that will ignite your next chapter of you, that will allow you to find the greatest love story, the greatest love affair. But first, it's got to come from you. So let me just recap the 5 steps that we've talked about from the 5 tools that I've learned from breakups, relationships, and divorce. Don't do it alone. Community is everything, and get support. Get support. by trusted people. Number 2, that sucked. Now what? Change your current environment. It could be people, places, things, allowing yourself new modalities, allowing yourself to say yes to new things, inviting good stress to build your confidence again. Number 3, allow yourself to suck at something new, because those tiny little increments will continue to build your confidence. Allow yourself to suck at something new. This is hard to hear, but this is oh so juicy, because it's that 2% shift that you're talking about. 2%. Number 4, increase your emotional capacity to feel. This is everything. This is your ability to hold. Because guess what? When you go through that next dating cycle, guess what? You will then see the red flags in all of those people that you once were attracted to, but no longer will be attracted to, because you're like, ooh, I've already felt that. Oh, I felt that energy. I'm not going to even go there. I'm not going to entertain that. Ooh, that person is totally my vibe externally, but the energy factor that I'm getting is no. That's my past. Wouldn't date that again, right? And then 5, actively work to clear the clutter, clear the old triggers, clear the patterns, the old patterns, to rewrite your new story. Who are you becoming? Who do you need to be to usher in to the next level of your game of life? I am so thankful that you have tuned in. I'm so grateful. And I really want to hear how this has moved you, how this has inspired you or shifted your perspective in some way. Please drop a comment below. Let me know how this has supported you, and share this with a friend, share this with a family member, share this with somebody that is going through a hard time, whether it's a relationship breakup, a love relationship, or a divorce. Send this to them. I mean, sharing is caring. And if you haven't already, if you love this episode, please, we would love your 5-star review. We will send you a free gift if you submit a screenshot to support@globalgrit.co. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have an amazing day, night, evening. And don't forget to be just a little bit more brave.